All right, beloved Madridistas, welcome back. Okay, back-to-back victories. Finally moving in the right direction. Both victories very important. I think last night's was particularly important and particularly impressive considering the rival, the venue, the competition, and the urgency to win. I think our performance last night was very, very professional. We played with a lot of intensity, a lot of focus. We anticipated balls very well. I think that the team was very focused, very concentrated, and pretty much throughout the whole match, especially in the first 20 minutes. There are some outstanding individual performances we need to mention. I think Jude was absolutely brilliant. It's 4 or 5 matches now that he's kind of leading the charge. Brahim was outstanding. And Rudiger was just absolutely colossal last night as well. I have some issues with Ancelotti and some of the decision-making, which I need to mention and discuss with you guys. And, of course, we have the Kylian injury. At this point, nothing surprises me. It's just, I'm more surprised when nobody gets injured because it's just become such commonplace, such a common problem for us. But let me give you my thoughts on the match. Again, a very professional performance, I think an encouraging performance. So let me give you my thoughts. Let's get started. All right, Madridistas, welcome back. Okay, let me give you my thoughts on the match last night. Like I say, this was a really, really important victory. Our backs were against the wall in this competition, which is our competition. These 3 points put us in a much more comfortable position, avoiding sort of having to play extra qualifying matches, etc. I think it puts us in a much, much better position. In terms of the lineup, I wouldn't say there was anything massively surprising. Ancelotti chose Ceballos over Arda Güler, and I think that's something debatable, and we can all have opinions about that. But this was a 4-4-2 in a sort of diamond. Jude spent most of the time playing a number 10 position. He elected to play Tchouaméni as a center back, and you may recall in my last video I mentioned that when Tchouaméni comes back, he better get ready to play a lot of minutes as center back. Because he seems to play that role very well. And as a pivot, he has been a little bit disappointing this season. But we did need his size and his physicality in the back. And I think it was a good decision based on how he played. Vini, of course, came back from injury, and there was a big question mark around what kind of form he would be in. But the lineup, again, not terribly surprising. There would have been a couple of other combinations that were possible, but I think this was probably not surprising to most of us. The first 20-25 minutes I thought were excellent. We played with a lot of intensity, a lot of focus. We were pressing very, very effectively. We were anticipating passes, getting in front of their players that were trying to receive the ball. I think we looked very focused, very, very concentrated, very well placed on the pitch. One thing I noticed, and I have to give Ancelotti credit for this, he obviously instructed the center backs and Courtois to play long balls to Kylian and to Vini, and it was very, very effective, especially in the first 20-25 minutes. Those long balls were doing a huge amount of damage to Atalanta. I mean, we looked threatening every time the ball got out there to the wing, and some of these passes were quite good, especially in the first 20-25 minutes. But I think we looked, again, very good and very threatening with those long diagonal balls. After the 20th minute, we had the goal in the 9th minute, which was it was a work of art. Brahim, a beautiful pass by Brahim. And importantly, the first touch, if you notice in this goal, Kylian's first touch was just fantastic because he, with one touch, places the ball behind the defender who's facing away from goal. He can't turn around in time. The only way to stop Kylian would have been to foul him, which would have been a penalty. And then, of course, Kylian's finish was magnificent. Now, this, I have to say, in the minutes that Kylian played, he was excellent. The goal that he scored in the 9th minute was very reminiscent of the Kylian Mbappe that we've all been watching for the last 7 or 8 years. Just very quick to the turn, quick to strike, and a lethal finish. It looked very, very much like the Kylian Mbappe that we all want and that we've all been watching for the last few years. After the 20th minute, Atalanta, of course, started to press more, which is to be expected. They were constantly attacking on the left-hand side. Lucas Vázquez was, of course, the weak link, and they kept exploiting that. Lukman kind of drove him crazy. It was a very difficult matchup throughout the entire match. And in the first 30 minutes, I would also mention, I found Vini a little bit slow and slightly out of place. You could sort of tell that he was coming back from an injury. He just wasn't quite participating, seemed a little bit slower than usual. And then in the 34th minute, of course, we had the injury to Kylian. Like I say, at this point, I'm shocked if we manage to finish a game without somebody getting injured. A lot of these injuries are muscular, which is very concerning. I don't know if there's been any kind of a change in terms of our physical preparation, but the number of injuries this season is absolutely alarming. So Kylian is out. It looks muscular. It doesn't look too serious, but we'll have to wait and see what the medical team tells us. And then, of course, Rodrigo came in for Kylian at that point, also coming back from an injury, and we were kind of tentative to see how he was feeling. And then 5 seconds before the halftime whistle, you had the penalty, the very untimely, literally there were 5 seconds left in the first half. And we commit the penalty, Tchouaméni. It's hard to blame him. I think he wasn't really in the right position. You could criticize him for that. When I saw the replay, it looked to me like the guy tripped on his own. But there was one take where you do see the contact, and Tchouaméni's knee does hit the back of the leg of the forward. So we go into the half 1-1. The second half started, kind of very similar to the first half, with a kind of very slow, kind of out of place Vini, but an absolutely outstanding Brahim and Jude. And then in the 56th minute, we had the goal from Vini. This was just sort of a mistake on Atalanta's part. They lose the ball in a dangerous area. It happens to fall right to Vini. But of course, he finishes wonderfully with that kind of killer instinct that he's developed. 2 minutes later, Jude scores his goal. This was an incredible pass. I'd encourage you guys to see that goal again, because the pass from Vini is absolutely magnificent. It's a perfectly weighted ball. Jude was just, staying behind the offside line. It was a beautiful pass. And then the finish by Jude was spectacular. It was, as I mentioned in my previous video, he has the ability to dribble without touching the ball, just by shifting his body weight. Very, very Zizou-esque of him. But it was a beautiful move and a beautiful finish. And that put us at 1-3 in a much more comfortable position. Now, at 1-3, I have to say, I was surprised that Ancelotti wouldn't start to make changes at that point, because Vini looked a little bit slow, a little bit out of place. I don't know why he would want to play Vini the full 90 minutes. I'm a little bit surprised about that. But I was surprised that at 1-3, he didn't start to make changes, just thinking about those injury situations. And the kind of physical state of Vini, which I think was just kind of visibly slower than usual. But Atalanta, as you would expect, kind of stepped up the pressure. And in the 64th minute, Lukman scored, a very good goal. I have to criticize Lucas Vázquez in the goal, because I think he gave Lukman too much space and too much time. I think in those situations, you need to bite a little harder. You need to put your feet in. You need to get in front of the player. You need to just be a little bit more physical and more aggressive. So I think this was a mistake by Lucas Vázquez. In the 82nd minute, we had the first changes. Ceballos and Brahim came out. Asensio and Luka Modric came in. But again, why wouldn't you take Vini off? Vini was visibly tired at the end of the match. There was one point where he even raised his arm, and it looked to me like he was calling to be substituted. But Ancelotti kept him on the full 90 minutes, which, again, coming off an injury, knowing the kind of player that he is, he's so explosive, so muscular. He really exerts himself in his style of play. It seems to me to keep him on for 90 minutes with a bit of a bizarre decision that I'm not entirely sure I understand. In the 86th minute, Jude comes out for Arda. Again, this is a substitution that could have taken place much earlier. Jude exerted himself a lot. I think that's a change that could have been made much, much earlier. And then sort of, we held on. It was kind of miraculous that Atalanta didn't score that last chance they had, which was kind of an inexplicable miss, because I mean, that last shot, the opportunity that they had, I mean, it was much more difficult to miss than to score it. But we got a little bit lucky there. But overall, I think this was a good performance. I think a solid team performance with some exceptional individual performances. And I want to talk about those very quickly. Let's start with the best players on the pitch. To me, Jude played an absolutely spectacular match. Again, he was absolutely everywhere. He works tirelessly in defensive duties, but he was very productive and very dangerous up front, not just scoring, but creating play. I think Jude has really been carrying this team for the last, I would say, 3-4 matches. I thought Brahim was outstanding. Brahim is a player that has exceptional technique. Brahim could dribble his way out of Woodstock. I mean, the way that he dribbles through players and his ability to keep the ball close to his foot. He's one of the best dribblers in the world and that I think I've ever seen in short spaces. Brahim, I thought, was absolutely exceptional, made some key passes, some key plays, and stole the ball on a few critical occasions as well. So he was very active defensively as well. I think Brahim was excellent. Rudiger was an absolute wall. A lot of the mistakes that Lucas Vázquez made during the course of the match, which were plenty, were saved by Rudiger. Rudiger was always anticipating the pass into the box, very commanding in the air. I mean, Rudiger was absolutely everywhere. And I think he's also been stellar these last few matches, and we need to recognize him. In terms of the other players, Courtois, I think, was excellent as well. A few very, very important saves. I don't think there was that much he could do in the goal. The goal came low, fast, right next to the post. That's very, very difficult to stop, especially because he didn't have visibility. Lucas Vázquez was kind of blocking his view. By the time he saw the ball, it was a bit late, and the ball came very quick. I don't think we can blame Courtois for the goal, for Lookman's goal, but I think in general, I think Courtois had some important saves and is always just a source of security to us. Fran was okay. I don't think he was stellar, but I think he worked very hard. Had a couple of important defensive contributions. Lucas Vázquez, I think, had an awful night. It was not his night. This was just not a fair matchup. I mean, Lookman against Lucas Vázquez, don't forget, Lucas Vázquez is not, he's no spring chicken. He's also getting older in his low 30s. And I mean, he just physically wasn't able to keep up with Lookman. And I think he was the weakest link in defense. Tchouaméni, I think, played very well in terms of defending, especially aerially. He defended very well. He was very present in the air and balls going into the box. Some of his outlet play, not great. I mean, he did have a couple of sloppy passes here and there, but I think defensively played pretty well. Fede, again, very consistent, maybe not spectacular like on other occasions, but very consistent, defended very well, and ran a hell of a lot. Ceballos, I think, played well, and again, there's a second game where I have to say, he's playing quite well. It's not necessarily my favorite midfielder because he tends to retain the ball a lot, but I think he played well, and I think he worked very hard defensively, which is kind of what we needed in last night's match. Kylian, I thought, was in the minutes he played in that first half, I thought he was very good. I thought Kylian was he was running into space very well. He was creating a lot of danger. The finish, like I say, was vintage Kylian Mbappe. He did miss a couple of chances. There was one opportunity where he had Vini completely alone in the middle, and he should have passed the ball. And, I did make a mental note of that. But I think overall he played very well, created a lot of opportunity, brought a lot of energy into the attack. And it looks like he's getting his killer instinct back slowly, which is incredibly encouraging. We'll see about the injury. Vini, I thought, it definitely was not his game in terms of, physically you could tell he wasn't 100% by any stretch of the imagination. But again, he's Vini, so he only needs one or two interventions to change a game. The pass to Jude was unbelievable, and his finish again was fantastic in his goal. So Vini, despite kind of physically not being 100%, I think played well and made a difference. Again, I would have taken him off way earlier. Rodrigo, I think you could also tell Rodrigo was just coming back from an injury and not really 100% because he didn't look quick as usual. He was having a hard time getting away from defenders. He was missing that little bit of speed on the turn that he typically has. So I think Rodrigo, again, you could also feel that he wasn't 100%. Look, I have to talk about Ancelotti, and I just have to repeat this. I'm still struggling with some of the decisions that Ancelotti makes. I don't understand why you would play Vini 90 minutes here. I'm also wondering why Rodrigo, who's coming off an injury, who clearly wasn't 100%, you have Enric on the bench, and Enric is a young player with a lot of energy, plays very well into space, finishes well. I don't know why you would necessarily bring Rodrigo on if he's not 100% when you have Enric there who's chomping at the bit to get minutes. Again, Vini playing 90 minutes, I don't understand. Rodrigo instead of Enric, don't really understand. The Arda substitution so late in the match, when Jude was clearly tired in the final minutes, again, that's a change that came a little bit too late, which again I don't understand. So I don't know. I think sometimes Ancelotti takes somewhat unnecessary risks with players that are tired or coming back from injury. I think he takes a little bit too much risk, and I'm still a bit iffy on some of his decisions. But again, look, I think this was a good performance. I think in terms of morale, this is very, very important. The 3 points were key, and it puts us back in a good position in the Champions League. And again, the back-to-back victories, I think, for morale is just really, really important. So anyway, we're moving in the right direction. Despite some of the Ancelotti decisions, I think we are moving in the right direction. So it was very, very encouraging. But anyway, those are my thoughts. Wanted to share them with you. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Thanks for joining me as always. And as always, Ala Madrid.